Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cross Commission Podcast. Coming at you Thursday evening. Recording will be at with you Friday morning. I don't know if you're. I have off tomorrow, safe Eid. So maybe I don't know
Oh,
if
really?
any have. Yeah, I
Just
don't know.
just shout out to Maryland off or what's tomorrow?
It's Eid, the end of Eid, I think. Eid.
Oh, right on. Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
So I don't know if anybody else listening has off, but if you do, shout out.
absolutely.
Um, so uh, yeah, that's pretty cool. And we've got we're into the thick of it at this point now.
Yes.
With the 2026 season, we've got Big Ten play underway, starting this weekend. Always one of our favorites. And then we've got some pretty significant Ivy League games as well, including Safe. I believe the Safe World Tour rolls on.
Oh my God, I can't wait. Listen, if anyone who listened to us in 2024 will remember that Cornell Princeton game. Absolutely. It reminded me of the Oscars where was it Blue? Not Blue Valentine, but the one that they missed.
Moonlight with La La Land.
Moonlight. Yeah, and the crowd reaction, like, Damon was just like, there was, I forget, this one older, the female actress, but she was just like, looked like she just saw a robbery in front of her. But that's what the scene was like.
It was. That was a robbery. It was.
The way people like scattered at the end of that was like, it reminded me of like a heist gone wrong. And the cops are there. Everyone just. I sent you the link. Like the announcers, like kind of like just deadpan, like recording of the final goal was just like, it was an event. So it should be fun. Looking forward to it.
It's like the stock exchange on Black Saturday, like 19 or Black Monday, whatever it was.
Yeah, no, it's God,
sell it all. Oh man,
because I'm trying to remember, because I went to a movie, Zone of Interest, because Princeton has a theater. I remember this joke because I remember like two or 3 weeks beforehand, I saw Zone of Interest, and anyone saw the movie, it's just like it's German subtitles about the war. It was essentially like the support staff of a camp, and like like it's absolutely like gut wrenching and like it's kind of depressing movie. So like as soon as I left, just like silence, right? Just like everyone. And it was like kind of like, I think it was opening weekend, so it was a good amount of people. But that reception of everyone exiting was like boisterous compared to like the reception of the, because after that it was just like, because everyone was just like really gearing up, and then it just kind of collapsed there, and then the stunning goal at the end just before the buzzer, and it's just like just silence and just people just streaming out. It was a scene. So it was fun. Obviously, I think I made the joke, like, I haven't seen this many rich people happy since they last cut taxes under Bush, but like, it's always a good scene. Like I said, the weekend I was thinking of going to the Maryland Hopkins games with you. It was a race weekend, but Harvard is playing Princeton in Boston. I think it was Cambridge Day that same weekend. So I think it may not happen till like 2028 given schedule. Maybe that'll be like, it will extend the lacrosse corridor to Boston. It's also that they give that's why I'm always like hype about them releasing the schedules earlier, because like then you can buy the tickets, especially for the Amtrak tickets, are like $6 or $12, especially if you're like 3 months out. So
well, and that's like there was the tweet about something about like comparing the attendance in Charlotte to like the attendance at Homewood or something or whatever this weekend that I saw. And it's like, I mean, if you live in this area, the competition you have for games on a weekly basis is, I mean, there's some weekends where there's 3 teams playing within, depending on the weekend, there could be 4 teams playing within like an hour of me.
Oh yeah.
Like, and then not to mention, you go out to Philly, which is, you could drive that. And if you're in, New York, it's a pretty similar thing. So I mean, it's hard. Like, I mean, it's hard for everyone to eat when there's so much, like Navy Hopkins is certainly a big game in this area. Maybe not as big as it once was, But it's hard when Maryland Virginia is happening at the same time, which is also a huge game in this area.
Yeah.
And I think Towson was on the road um, at Nova, but yeah, like it's but you can kind of mitigate that absolutely if you put the schedule out and allow people to kind of have an idea of which game they want to go to or make plans, things like that. No, I think you're 100% dead on. Uh,
And
you know,
so we're talking about, I mean, we'll probably lead into our next conversation, but like the in-game experience, A, for the money, like, just how it is, like with inflation and like ticket price. I keep joking in our chat, like that we're nearing peak sports, with how much people have to be invested.
it's crazy.
And the lacrosse ticket for a family of like 4 or 5, like, it's obscenely reasonable given, like, just to go to an Orioles game, I'm sure, just for, it's like
Yeah,
maybe $150, $200 for everybody, just for the
for
tickets.
I mean, at the lowest end, you're probably looking at what family of four at the in the best case, probably with fees close to over 100.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
thinking like you might
And
get you can get $20 tickets probably, but then you take $20 tickets times four, throw in fees, and then that's not mentioning concessions. Um, which is
exactly.
that's definitely going to get you north of 150 to
And like now, it was what, $11. I shout out, yeah, they gave me a T-shirt. Shout out to Penn. Like, listen, like I'm a cheap date, Jake. If they, like just give me a nice day, free T-shirt. I'll, buy it and come back again.
free
So,
T-shirt. Yeah,
I'm a sucker for free. I remember when my boy Joe and I were walking in, and I saw the stand. I was like, "It's these pre-ordered or anything?" He's like, "No, we're just giving them out." I was like, "Please, right? I'll take that."
it was like the point. It was like the point Adrian. It was like the point Adrian Brody gave Michael B. Jordan at the Oscars. He was like, Michael B. Jordan. It was like,
You
give
know
me
what I
right.
want. Yeah, no, exactly. So it's that, and I'm thinking about, like, because eventually I think we probably will see ticket creep. I've kind of introduced that in our chat just because, like, given the demographic, I don't want to be over generalizations, as that one article, not to over generalize, but if these schools are probably thinking, you can get another $5-10 out of this crowd. It's still somewhat reasonable, given like decentish seats at Camden or Camden Yards, or going to the link for a football game. That you're looking at $200 for even any type of seats at the link. So I could eventually see that, because you kind of see with the streaming, like one-off games come up, $16-15. Like I eventually, like, and the in-game experience is so much better. Like I think eventually we may see that creep, which would hate to see it, but
It's
that's the nature of capitalism.
yeah. I mean, obviously, it's tricky. I just think it's such a fine line with a sport like lacrosse. Um, for many different reasons we talk about the competition within the, as you call it, affectionately the lacrosse corridor. Like you've just got there's so many games people can go to, and if you're willing to make a drive, the options are kind of endless. It's not like if you're someone who's living out west or even in the Midwest, if you're a Ohio State Notre Dame fan, or even like our pal Mark Hartfield, he's stick in like Georgia, like a couple hour drive might get you to one game. A couple hour drive where we are gets you to like a dozen.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're willing to move around, like the competition is there. I just think you got to be really careful if you do that if you're a school. I think you need to have you need to have a team that's capable of, like, that people want to go see, and that's it's like how many teams could reasonably, with the product they put out year in year out, people feel like I got to go see it. Notre Dame's maybe one, but Notre Dame doesn't even charge for admission. Yeah. So that's, there you go. Maryland, maybe could be one. Like Princeton maybe. But it's like if you're Princeton, why mess up what you've been doing is working?
Okay.
Why like mess with that, with the atmospheres you have with the students, and obviously a kind of a dedicated alumni and family and things like that as well. Also, I think it's worth mentioning, like you mentioned the in-game experience is also pretty significant. Not to be one of the people who beats up on Penn like Franklin Field, but it's like it ain't some of the other places. It's not to say that like it's a bad venue or anything like that. You've been much more than me, but if you're Penn, Franklin Field compared to I don't know Princeton, 1952 is probably a little nicer. So it's like if you're I'm not saying Penn is going to do this, but it's like that's something you have to keep in mind. Like if you're Hopkins, yeah, and but Hopkins also has to weigh, is the team winning enough to kind of and granted, look, yes, it is the money driving sport at Johns Hopkins. But like, yeah, Hopkins, Virginia, Notre Dame, these are definitely schools with in-game atmosphere, like in the stadium, where you feel like it's worth the ticket with everything you kind of get. Virginia being on the, at Klockner on the, the outer rim, on like the field and everything like that, super nice. The hill they got. Arlotta's got that again. They don't charge admission. Hopkins would just again like you can get a good seat pretty much anywhere. But like I mentioned with Maryland, certainly the product they put on the field year in year out is kind of worth that. But also, is the in-game experience in terms of the stadium good enough? So I know some people do like it. Like you do get to sit high up and you get to see more of the field. And certainly good games of Maryland have very good atmospheres, especially obviously the Hopkins game when they play them. But it's still a football field. You're still further away from the field. So I don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I think it's something that if schools are going to do that, they got to be like really hesitant. With that. I know like a couple years we looked at like Harvard's prices and we were like, geez. And listen, they're getting people to turn out, which is awesome. But this is the best your team has been. Like if they started to raise ticket prices even more, I don't know. I just think it's something you have to there's a lot of factors I think that go into that with lacrosse that are different than just Alabama football being like, yeah, we're gonna raise ticket prices again. Sure, like they can do that. The demand is there that they can consistently raise it and people will probably pay it. I think lacrosse is yes the consumer base has the money, and I always feel tricky about this because it's true, but I always feel kind of uncomfortable maybe saying it because I feel like it leads to lacrosse fans being kind of taken advantage of because people are like, oh, of course they'll pay. It's kind of like, yes, just because, yeah, in the grand scheme of things with the, most lacrosse fans and their kind of backgrounds and income and everything like that, yeah, paying $20 or whatever for a stream, there might be, yeah, probably isn't a big deal. Still doesn't mean it should happen. And also, the evergreen quote, grow the game. Well, if you're trying to do that, you're trying to reach out into people in different, economic kind of statuses and zones. Maybe it shouldn't just be a race to, charge as much as we can. And, so I'm not saying you're wrong, but yeah, I think it'd be something to, I don't know. I think like the past couple of years, we've talked about year of the box office. There's been some big crowds and it's been really good. I think don't mess up a good thing is probably what I would say. I think what's going on right now is in terms of the crowds we see is pretty good. Obviously, we would all like to maybe fix some about the games going on early in the season with the weather and everything like that, and have for more games in front of better crowds. But this time of year, the past couple of years, has seen some pretty awesome games and some pretty awesome atmospheres with. And I think should be in store for more of that with just kind of how compact all these teams are and some of the matchups we're going to get. All right, Save, any last thoughts on last week or on the poll or anything like that you'd like to go over?
No, I mean, I think we've kind of talked about like, the tiers and stuff like that. Start maybe think about expanding that top three from Notre Dame, Princeton, Richmond Center. Maybe start including that Harvard, North Carolina, Duke. Like Duke could be there. Like I said, like we may need to be ahead of the curve, jump on touchdown John Zanowski, because there's a thing of like I joked around our chat when I was at the Penn game last week, and it was definitely like Dude caught a stray from a pen mom right behind me. He shoots. It's like they was asking about the score of the Bellarmine game, and Duke started opening it up. And she was like, "They don't play anybody." And I was like, "You tell them." But you know what? Maybe it works because like that's what it happened. Like we said, like they can't have any catastrophic. Too bad of a word, but like a bad like loss with this non-con schedule, and if they swept it and did with their opponents in a significant way, which they have, like the margin of victory of these games are you can't just deny it. They're not like eking out these games, and then if they then can turn that into like maybe they're not dropping 16 plus goals on Syracuse, but maybe they are for real. And I was like, that's why I think some people rightfully said like over the weeks, like Duke's playing. See a couple people mentioned Ohio State's schedule also hasn't been that's stellar for non-con side, and they kind of get more of a benefit of the doubt. So I said, I think maybe we should start. I think the next couple of weekends we'll know for sure, especially this Denver game, if they can kind of like not manhandle Denver, but if they win like kind of comfortably, then yeah, like because Denver felt like it's been punching above their weight, kind of like my other dark horse besides Notre Dame. And if they the way they played against some top teams, if Duke's able to like not just win by one, but like 3 or 4 goals and stuff like that, I think we're gonna have to really think of Duke in that club of a potential Final Four threat. So
yeah, I will say, I hear you. Let me just point out the last time we contemplated being ahead of the curve on Duke, they did score like 3 goals in the Carrier Day.
We can't predict Black Swan events, Jake. Like the numbers were there, like to justify our thoughts at the beginning. But obviously, Q's put it on them. So yeah, like I said, I think at that point we were saying, are they potentially a 2022 Maryland team? So I'm not ready to go that far. Like definitely a solid quarterfinal like threat, and definitely I think we start looking at them as a legitimate Final Four contender. I mean, they're not in that top 3, Notre Dame, Princeton, Richmond, because I think they kind of through their performance and being able to besides the Penn State game for Princeton, like they're all flawless. So and the team that they've beaten, that I think they deserve the attention and the position that they've gotten in the polls and stuff like that. But yeah, like Duke like kind of does a number on the ACC. Like we really gotta see them as a real.
No, I don't think it's I don't think we're wrong to kind of be potentially ready to move them into that that sort of position. I think it's kind of I do think it's a bit of we have to say, like here's the thing. I think you phrased this correctly. They've been beating the crap out of teams. And again, sometimes it's not just about, I say it, sometimes it's not about who you play, it's how you play. That is a factor in these sorts of conversations. And so I think we should be kind of willing to definitely sort of consider where they might how they're playing in their success. Their metrics are quite strong. They're 5th in adjusted offensive efficiency, 3rd in defense, 8th in faceoff percentage, and 13th in save percentage. Very good numbers. The possession numbers they're putting up are pretty dominant week in, week out. They win lots of faceoffs. They're turning the other teams over. They're building themselves a really nice buffer in that regard. I think the way you phrased it is key, though. It's how do they look against Denver? I think they'll beat Denver, but if it's a close, drag them out type game, that doesn't necessarily doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but it would be in line with what Syracuse and Ohio State have done, who are ranked currently 7th and 8th, just behind them in our poll. I think in the media poll it's pretty similar. I think that would be like okay, they're kind of tiered exactly. If they put up similar performance to how Ohio State and Syracuse played, I think it's all right. We'll put them kind of right there. Now, listen, there's still some variance in that. The Ohio State was just a pure defensive struggle, and Denver's defense played terrific. Their offense, neither offense could really do much. The Syracuse game was bizarre. It was a Syracuse game. There were 20 minutes where Syracuse looked like a top 3 team in the country. Then there was about 20 minutes where Denver looked like a top 10 team. There was 20 minutes that was somewhere else in there. There were tons of penalties and things of that nature. So I think it's important. If they go out there and now beat them by 5 or 6, okay, we have a different conversation. But I think it's just important to couch in that, because I think you would probably say their best win is probably either Utah or St. Joe's. I think those are definitely kind of a tier clear of Bellarmine, Vermont, Jacksonville, Air Force, Providence, who don't look super competitive. If you look at St. Joe's metrically in comparison, just nationally, St. Joe's is top 25 in they're 25th in adjusted offensive efficiency. They're not top 30 in anything else. So St. Joe's is a 25th to 35th type ranked team. I think you could probably say. I mean, they're in the top 20 in the media poll. Do I think that's their true quality? Maybe. I'm not sure. I think they might be more of an outside the top 20 team, but we'll see. And then you have Utah, they look quite impressive so far. Like Utah is kind of inside the top 20 in a lot of the relevant metrics. They lost to Duke by 7. They lost to Denver by 1. Granted, I mean, it's tricky. Schedule effects maybe do come into play there. I mean, Utah scored like 32 goals against Iona, which is insane. But beat Dartmouth by 7, beat Marquette by 9. I mean, again, but Utah's beat every game Utah's won. They've been dominant. Duke beat them by 7. So it's, the best team they've played is probably a top 20 team, maybe a top 20 team. The second best team they've played is probably a top 25-ish team. That's still a schedule that I think is really hard to make a judgment on. I just think there are light schedules, and then I do think there's what they've done, which is it's hard to tell. They haven't played a Big Ten team. They haven't played an Ivy League team. We haven't seen them play an ACC team yet. So I just think it doesn't mean they're not great. It doesn't mean they can't be a contender. It just means I still think the burden of evidence is a little bit higher, and I think that's fine. If they go out there and beat Denver by 5 or 6 goals, I think they definitely probably should be moved into the top 5 or in that mix. Look, they're ranked 6th right now. I think where they're ranked right now is fine.
Exactly.
I think it's exactly fine. I had them ranked 8th, but I think they're in that mix with Ohio State, Syracuse, potentially Penn State. Maryland. It's just, again, it's hard. For all the conversations we've had about Maryland and some of the conversations we had about Penn State, it's like if Maryland or Penn State played that schedule, they'd probably be 7-0, and they'd be like, it feels, Maryland, Penn State, and Cuse, especially with what they've done with the road games. It feels like they've played it feels like we've had a full season of evidence on them already. Whereas Duke, it kind of feels like it's just beginning. And that doesn't mean that by the end, Duke won't be ahead by the time we finish the race. But I do think it's how they play. I do think, look, let's say this, if we're going to say that it doesn't matter who they play, but how they play, that's the relevant indicator, then I think how they play against Denver matters. If we're going to judge them on how they played, I think the level they show against Denver is a key indicator. Again, if they beat them comfortably, all right, let's start to have the conversation. After Denver, they have they have Virginia after that?
Cuse, Virginia, and then Cornell.
All right, so it's going to be, the Cuse game will be certainly have a lot of anticipation for it. If they win by 1, again, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a win. They will have done the minimum they had to do. You can argue maybe they've done that already, because if they lose to Denver, Denver's right on the outside of the top 20 in RPI, so it probably won't be a bad loss. So you can argue they've done what they had to do already, which is just don't mess up. They have messed up. Now it's time to see what can they add to their, they're going to be an interesting team, man. It's the ACC is in a great spot right now. They've won a lot of out-of-conference games. Certainly the top three teams, Notre Dame, Carolina look great shape, and Cuse in very good shape as well. Virginia's kind of hanging on out there, sort of by themselves. What is a Duke team that wins? If Duke wins one game the rest of the way, what does that Duke team look like?
One game the rest of this season?
Yeah, like let's say they beat Denver, but they lose the rest. Like, I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
I would, yeah, probably. I think, but
they include Virginia in there because it would be hilarious if both ways.
Okay, how about this? Let's say they beat Denver and Virginia, but lose to Cornell, Cuse, Carolina, Notre Dame.
They're a bubble team. If that's their record, if they lose,
that's what makes it fascinating. I think there is a world where Duke makes it a fascinating case for the committee because they could be really up there in RPI potentially. There's the ACC could be the top league in the country, and you could be sitting there with like, what? But who did they beat? Now on the flip side, look, like I mean that's just like I think there's a world out there where we're sitting there and like, what do they do with that Duke team? Now again, there's also a world where they beat Denver, Virginia, Cornell, and they're probably in. Just because Cornell's probably going to be a team that's fighting there with them for that, in that mix. Or there's a world where they beat Virginia and Cuse and Cornell and Denver, and they got 3 losses and they make the ACC tournament, and they're sitting more than fine.
Yeah.
It's a lot is still out there. I mean, that's true for a lot of teams. I think there's only probably 3 or maybe 5 teams who should feel like. I think Notre Dame, Cuse, Princeton, UNC, and Richmond should feel pretty darn good right now. I think everyone else, like if you're Harvard, even you beat Cuse. What if you lose to Cornell and Yale? I'm not saying they will, but if you don't beat Princeton, if you're Harvard and you kind of drop some games here, again, I think Harvard's a great team. I think they're going to be, but I think it's just the idea of like maybe in terms of like this is a different tier conversation than how we think the team shake up. It's like who should feel good about that right now? I think Notre Dame should feel good. I think Princeton should obviously feel great. I think Syracuse should feel very good. I think UNC should feel pretty darn good. I think Richmond should feel pretty good. Honestly, I think a bid's going to be out there if Richmond needs it. I don't think they're going to need it, but I think it's going to be there if they need it. Other than that, I don't think there's a lot of teams that should feel like we're sitting here great. Like Ohio State is what 7-8-1. I don't think they should feel great. Like we talked about like Ohio State v Maryland. It's like one's 7-1, one's 3-3. I think they should probably feel about the same way.
Yeah, lot to do, a lot more to do.
We got to go out and win 4 or 5 games in Big Ten play.
You got to take it, as we always say. You got to take it.
Exactly. I think there's a group of teams in there, and Duke again. I think Duke is in that tier with Penn State, Ohio State, Maryland. Those are Big Ten teams. Hopkins, even Harvard, even where it's like you got more to do. Now it's not to say they won't do it. I think Harvard and Duke, you could probably feel maybe more confident about those 4 Big Ten teams in terms of what they have to do. But there's still more to do for all of those teams. Whereas I think Notre Dame, UNC, Princeton, Cuse, Richmond, I think they can feel Cornell is 100% in that group with those Big Ten teams and Duke and Harvard. Like Cornell, more to do starting this weekend potentially. More to do. Like there's a small group of teams who I think can feel pretty good about what they've done so far. There's a bigger group of teams who are we got more to do, and then there's a group of teams like Virginia, Rutgers, maybe Yale in there, Penn, like Georgetown, where it's like it might be you have to go out and get it come May, like conference tournament type situation. Not there yet for some of those. There's still opportunities. If the ACC is going to be really good, like the ACC is going to shape up the way it is, Virginia could get back. Look, if Lars is right that he thinks Virginia's turned it around, the opportunities are going to still be there for Virginia. Listen, they got to get past Utah this week. Scott's saying, but like the opportunities will be there. But yeah, I think small group, feel good. Bigger group, work to do. Another small group of you can still catch the train, but it's starting to move. Like it's like Penn and Yale this week is a very good example. Like if any of you two, like it's more so for Yale because their metrics are a lot better. If you want to be in that at-large conversation, you better win this weekend. Like you got to get it done. 100%.
Just to correct the record, it was Duke Providence. That's the game that was the last weekend. I think I said Duke Bellarmine at the beginning of that Penn.
Yeah,
so I don't want to misquote it. It was such a great one. So.
All right. Anything else safe on that?
No. Everything feels settled. Looking forward for this weekend. Should be nice weekend. Maybe some separation for some teams, but yeah.
All right. We will definitely talk about this weekend, what we're looking forward to. Safe, of course, will be at 1952 for Cornell and Princeton. Before then, Safe, we're gonna have a little fun here. So, all right, we're having fun here, doing a little bit of a gag in case anyone listening is itching to restart.
We're laughing. These are builders.
In case anyone is itching, never know who's listening, itching to restart this past weekend's discourse. We're having fun here. It's a gag. Safe. Top 5, you want them at the replay booth during the game. Figures in colleges across. It's all open for you. It could be media. It could be coaches. Could be players even. Top 5, you're like, I want that person at the replay booth. When those refs go, like I want them looking at the monitor. Like the ref comes over and it's like, no, listen, I got this. I'm making the call.
I got 2 right off the bat, so I don't want to take out. But I'm hoping maybe one of these we both agree on. My first round pick, I gotta go with Q. I gotta go with Quinn.
Okay,
I feel like Hyper. They will take it very seriously. If called the rule book analysis, understand talking to other people, but I think talking to refs, I think if Quinn was ever had that responsibility, I'd feel safe in his hands in terms of knowing the rule book, being able to be conversant in it with the audience, and also explaining what he needs to be looking for in this replay. So flat out, I mean, I'll go with Quinn. It's my number one. I just think he's a safe pair of hands.
Sure.
I'll just so my other one, just say then we can get yours. Zim. I think Zim, anytime he's I just hear his voice on a game or just see him on the screen, it feels like you come out from a really cold day and you just put the heat on, you got the blanket, you got you have your you just know you're with somebody you could trust that knows what he's doing, and it's just able to make sense of what you're seeing in a way that's translatable to people who know the game deeply and played it for years, and people are just changing the channel or changing the stream and finding that. So if I had to go first 2 right off the top, I think Q and Zim, I would just love to have them both. In terms, especially for replays, I think both of their game knowledge is so extensive, and like I said, just their way of being able to communicate is in a way that just is relatable, trustworthy, and just someone that you want to listen to. This man knows what he's talking about. I want to learn more. So if I had to go just for 2 right off the top, those are my 2.
I like those 2. I'm going to veer in a different direction to you. I'm going to throw some combustible elements in the mix. All right. Number 1, I want Big Bill.
Ooh, BT? Oh, yeah.
I want BT down there.
Oh.
I want BT laying down the law, enforcing the rule book, keeping the refs in check himself. Be like, you look at this, you see this? I want BT. I want you to kind of feel like you really got to earn your challenge when you're using a BT in the booth. I want it's is it time to use it? And you just kind of look over at him and he just but it's I want BT. I want the potential drama of him maybe going rogue when it comes to like a crease call. Just going off and doing his own thing.
Mine is 2021. This is exactly. I don't know. 2016. 2016.
We lost the Final Four game because
it was this exact play. Exactly what I'm talking about.
The other one I want, calling back to a specific time period here, I want 2005 Petro.
Oh, my God! Yes.
I want no one ever like no one's facial expressions were just ever more perfect than Petro in that time period. I want someone, a coach, to like go over and start complaining about the call, and just for Petro to hit him with that look he gave Starja when he called for the stick check.
I love it. It's just it's
like, no, like you want that? No, get out.
You know better, Dom. You know exactly. He just said everything he needed to say. I don't want to. Please keep going. I don't want to cut you off. Yeah.
That's exactly the energy I want. I want the coach to go over there and like start to be like, "Are you sure?" And Petro just be like,
Petro as a rep would be great too, because they had the bitches moaning. He's like, "Come on, coach." Like,
I've said it all myself.
Definitely, I love. I saw a recent tweet that like compared him to like young James Gandolfini and The Sopranos, and I was like, oh man, this we've been talking about this for like 50 years. This is where it comes. But yeah, no, Petro would be great. Just the voice, just like just the way he he's very like just charismatic. Like I still remember that. I think it was like 2015 or 16 that long form interview with Clark.
Yeah,
I think when they were starting and. It's like, so, the alumni, the fans, the alums, how's it been? And he's just like, the alums are great. Just like his voice went up like 60 levels, and it's just like, they're great. What can I say? He's no man. Bring him back. No, I'm just kidding. We already saw Daniels at the game. Next time we see him,
yeah.
Think about it.
That's my two. Those are the two that just jumped out.
I got another. I'll throw it in there. Front of the pod. I think he just silky smooth on the mic. Just like this man knows what he's talking about. Ryan Boyle.
Okay, I like it.
I think Ryan Boyle would kill it. Like just in general, he's just love him as an announcer. One of my favorite pods was having him on. It was great, but yeah, just like the charisma, the intelligence, being able to translate like the rule book to like lacrosse fan or lacrosse player like knowledge, or like a layman or laywoman who's just stumbled upon the game. I think Boyle would just be like, he's kind of like I'm trying to think of like who's the best like NFL guy. I guess
Greg Olson.
Olson. Yeah, I feel like just in terms of just like having the entire package that you want for so you're looking at somebody that knows what he's talking about. It's able to like I said, be conversant in a way that people can understand it, and like also understand what he's looking for in this replay while they're doing it in real time. So yeah, Boyle, another safe pair of hands, of course.
Got one more potentially. Tillman knows the rule book better than anybody.
It's really great. I think
you can't argue anything with it. He knows the rules. He helped make some of the rules.
Absolutely. No, it's just it would be interesting to see, like, because it's just so almost like I'm trying to think of who it felt like or even college Saban-ish, like
yeah, kind of
knows it, like the obviously the accent is different, so that, but like just like deadpan, but also I bet like could drop a great joke here and there, just like that's just not something we see in these like mini interviews that they do with the coaches in games and after games. But I think that there is like an absolute, like, I don't mean this in a pejorative way, but like almost like a Rain Man quality in terms of like knowing the rules and knowing exactly what the refs are looking for and what we should be looking for in a replay that Tillman has. But I think like I think there's like you always talk about Bernhardt, there's like the next level. I think there is a level of like, charisma and being able to connect that Tillman maybe has, we just haven't seen. I would love to see. But yeah, in terms of like knowing what he's looking at, being able to tell us what we should be looking at in the replay and how it how the rule applies in this situation. Of the ones we said, I think besides Q, like probably better than Q, like yeah, Tillman would be, in terms of like knowing the rule book and absolutely know exactly what to look for.
We need we don't have a commentator who like doesn't like replay. I think that'd be perfect. If we had a commentator out there who was just against replay, I think it'd be perfect. Be like, do you want to you're gonna challenge this, and just like looking at the clock the whole time, like, all right, we're done.
You just wasted a timeout,
Like he takes sets like a hard cap minute. This is how I would be with their like if I was they put me in the booth. I just like set the timer for a minute. I'd be like, all right, nope, we're done.
You can't tell in a minute. Yeah,
sorry. Like we're moving on. We need a commentator just like Lowe's replay. That'd be great. It'd be a great vibe. But yeah, the replay stuff is. I do think this was actually kind of along these lines. I think. Tell me what you feel about this. I don't know if we talked about this on the Power Hour. I think if you issue a challenge and you get it wrong, it should be a man up for the other team.
Whoa. And a loss of a timeout?
No.
Okay, timeout. So no loss timeout, but like a 30-second extra man?
Or replacing a timeout with it basically would be a delayed game penalty.
Okay.
I think there's no risk in in issuing a challenge in the first half at all. Like, you lose a timeout in the first half. I think you could argue there's not really a ton of risk. There's more risk in the second half, but I think you could argue if you still got one timeout in the bag, you feel fine. Now, again, there's going to be some cases, maybe your team goes on a 4 or 5 goal run. You're like, man, I absolutely have to save this timeout for potentially the end of the game. You can't take it if you issue a challenge. But I don't know. I just think I watched that Maryland-Virginia game, and there were like 2 reviews in the first quarter that both took like 3 or 4 minutes. It was like the first quarter went on for half an hour at least. I just think, and for some of these calls, I don't know, man. It feels like a lot of the reviews we get feel very borderline of like, I guess, or let's just go with whatever they ruled on the field. I don't know. To me, I think you really kind of, if you really want a challenge, all right. If you feel really certain that you're going to win the challenge, cool, issue it. Maybe you're right. But I want to get rid of the, yeah, why not? Let me just throw the flag type, I don't know. I just feel like we've had this for a couple years now, and it feels like the coaches are very kind of just sort of, it takes them a while. They like look over at the iPad that they have on the side, and they're just kind of like, yeah, I guess. There's a lot of, it feels like, yeah, I guess type challenges. Just kind of like, I want you, for you to challenge, I want it to feel so obvious that you throw that challenge flag out there. I don't want you to do the like Belichick, like just, roll over and drop it. No, if you really start about throw that sucker. I don't want any more of these like, do I want to? Yeah. And then we just, we burn 5 minutes with these. Because again, the equipment itself ain't great. They have to use the TV. The like coach film is not good enough to use for in most cases. Though I guess we never know. Like that one time in the Ohio State Penn State game last year, it was like the referees are seeing the exact same thing you're seeing. It's like actually they aren't. It's like, oh, okay. I don't know. I think on the whole, has replay been good? I'd say maybe it tilts towards good, and at least we have it in the case that you want to avoid something like the Penn State Duke game or the Maryland Virginia game. But again, that Ohio State Penn State one last year was like, that one was like, Jesus, if this is what's going to be like if we have it, then like, I don't know. I think we have too many challenges. Is my overall point. I'd like to. They do this in hockey. Like it depends on like I think offside challenge or goalie interference. If you get it wrong, you go on the power play. Or your opponent goes on the power play, and that's for 2 minutes. I'm not saying like doing that, but I think a 30-second delay game-based penalty. Basically, you delayed the game. the game was delayed, so you could do the challenge. It didn't work. Man up for the other team.
I like, it gives the team still a chance to fight their way out. Losing a timeout, especially in the second half, could definitely like really hamstrung you. But you can see you fight your way out of a man down to like kind of survive getting that challenge wrong. So yeah, it's kind of interesting because there's a little dynamic. Definitely, we were talking about the overtime. Like, yeah, we definitely start tinkering at that and that kind of stuff. Like, but yeah, I think having some type of penalty for getting a challenge wrong, more significant than losing a timeout would be interesting. Yeah, because it is like when I went that Penn Princeton Cornell game 2 years ago. There was like a 4 or 5 minute like delay while they and this is like the fans just like giving it to them, and then the call went against Princeton, and then you just delayed that like the even louder boost. So yeah, that would be kind of interesting if you get it wrong and have to be a man down. That'd be kind of interesting.
I definitely am with you on the overtime. I think timeouts have definitely got to go. That's the easiest one. But I really am. I don't know why we need to. Why do we need to stop and switch sides? Just play until it's over. Like we don't really need a, set the clock again. Set the clock to put another 15 minutes basically. Just make another 15-minute, period. And it will probably be done in that point in time. But if it doesn't, all right, at that point, fine. 15 minutes, we can switch sides again. I don't know why we need to do shorter, more condensed. Basketball has this problem too, where with the overtimes and then the fouls, and it just goes on forever. But with basketball, it makes sense because with how many points are scored, you don't want a 12-minute. That would be crazy long. Lacrosse, it's one goal. It's sudden death. Sudden death OT does not need to be 4 minutes with a timeout for each team, and then we just do it. We do it again after that. No, just I think the easy one is try that. And if that still there's problems with it, then I would say maybe you can get to pulling dudes off the field and play 5v5 or something like that. The space thing is definitely a big component. Just as you mentioned, these guys are so tired, and the game slows down significantly in LT. But I think if you just started with that, you just made it. You just got rid of timeouts, and you set it for a longer overtime period, so they don't have to stop after 4 minutes and switch sides. I think you'd alleviate a lot of the issues.
Oh yeah. Yeah, start the first period regular, and then each overtime stage afterwards, one less man on the field.
Perfect. There you go. So we do 15 minutes of overtime, and if we don't, if we go 15 minutes with nobody scoring, yeah, we go play 5v5. I think that's perfect. Nice a lot. Yeah, that works. All right. So, good slate this weekend. A lot of games, and I know this is always we always kind of talk about this, and I know this is a big thing for lacrosse fans out there. Pretty well spread out. Friday night, Dartmouth, Harvard, 7 p.m. Eastern from Cambridge. Definitely the Crimson won a bag. Navy, Lafayette at 7:30 p.m. in the Patriot League, which feels like it's destined to go right down to the wire this year. Starts at 11 a.m. with Utah, Virginia at Scott Stadium, the site this year of the Final Four. Then we have 12 noon.
It's an 8 a.m. game for Utah. Right. I guess 9 a.m. Is it mountain time? No, man.
The body clock. For sure. All right. Penn, Yale, big game in the Ivy League. I think that game probably is the inside track to making the Ivy League tournament. I feel pretty confident about that. Both teams are at 1-0 or at 0-1, so starting 0-2, and then those are each other's main competition. I think whoever wins that one has the inside track for the Ivy League tournament. Whoever doesn't is sitting in a pretty difficult spot. That'll be in New Haven. In Baltimore, Michigan, Johns Hopkins, as those two teams open up Big Ten play. Cornell, Princeton, where Safe will be at 1952. Big game. Princeton looking to complete the sweep of their 3 rivals that they had such a long losing streaks to. Cornell's the last step. But I think such a compelling narrative game. If Cornell wins again, Cornell has the inside track, arguably, to once again being the top team in the Ivy League. Especially because Harvard comes to Cornell the last weekend of the regular season. So if Cornell can beat Princeton and Princeton, they'll be in first place. They'll be set up first place in the Ivy League. They'll have beaten Princeton again for the 7th or 8th time in a row. And Cornell will feel like with Harvard coming to their place, they have the inside track to be the Ivy League number one. Again, you got to beat the man. You got to beat the man. To be the top dog in the Ivy League, Princeton has to beat Cornell, and they have not done it, since 2018, I believe, the game where George Bond shut down Jeff T. So that's at noon. So you got 3 pretty good noon face-off times. 1 o'clock, you got Ohio State Rutgers in Piscataway. Another pivotal game start Big Ten play. Rutgers can get back in this mix. With a win, Rutgers is kind of in this mix, right there in the thick of it in Big Ten play. And Ohio State would kind of be behind the 8 ball. All these Big Ten games matter. They're so close. They're so very physical. And in a year where the Big Ten feels more wide open than it's been in, I don't know about ever, but definitely in a while, that'll be a big one. That's at 1 o'clock. And then after that, you kind of get some sort of solo game windows here. You got Maryland, Penn State at 3 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. Big game. I think I don't want to say a must win for both teams, but it's in that range for both teams. Both teams potentially facing injury issues. Will Schaller, torn ACL, looks like he's done for Maryland for the season. Hunter Aquino's been out 2 weeks in a row for Penn State. Is he going to be back? I think it'll be too early for Eric Spanos to return from Maryland. But you've got a lot of kind of injury pieces on both sides for those teams. Penn State beaten Maryland twice. I don't think they've ever beaten Maryland State College. So Maryland's won a lot of close kind of heartbreaker games for Penn State at State College. That'll be a big one on Big Ten Network. And then 4:30 on the ACC Network, Army and UNC. Game's lost its luster a bit with Army taking some hits in Patriot League play, but Army's beaten UNC, 2 years in a row? And this can Army keep this streak going against the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Ivy League? It would certainly be a big win. There's also some night games, 3 face-offs after 6 o'clock. You get Army, UNC, and Maryland, Penn State kind of have everything to themselves for a little bit. Then, last but not least, Sunday, 1 o'clock, you have Denver, Duke, and Georgetown, Cuse. Return of an old Big East rivalry in the Dome. So you got some really good games in the early window on Saturday. You've got some couple good games in the afternoon window, and then you got 2 good games on Sunday. It's probably the best, most spread out slate we've had all season so far. We've had some better ones maybe, but they were kind of all crunched together. This, we have a really nice balanced slate to look forward to. Safe, what are you most looking forward to?
I mean, definitely the Princeton Cornell game, just being able to see 2 quality teams like that and just see this juggernaut Princeton team, seeing if they can keep it rolling against Cornell is definitely been a bugaboo, especially at Princeton, at least since I've been onto these games. But I mean, if I had to put another game, I guess we already touched on Duke Denver, so don't want to harp on that one too much more. I do think it'll be a really good game against, it's always been a great rivalry there with Dano and Tierney, but with Matt Brown, definitely I think they'll have his guys ready. I was going to say, it feels like a last shot for Army if they beat North Carolina, but I just think what they've done, it's going to be kind of Patriot League or bust. But this would be a good bounce back.
The problem is that in their case would be that for any at-large case, they'd have to take another loss in the Patriot League tournament. It's can they really afford 3 Patriot League losses?
Exactly.
I don't think so.
Upset potential, just because it always changes when the target's on your back. Not that Richmond hasn't had that in the A10, but UMass has kind of been a little bit of a frisky-ish team. So it's at Amherst, you could just maybe see the Minutemen having something there for Richmond. Just, road games are always tough in college Crosse, and Richmond's been a solid team. I'm not predicting an upset, but just wanting to watch at. I would actually like to go to Rutgers, Ohio State if the Princeton Cornell game wasn't closer, and it's probably more appealing in terms of offense. But like that's definitely going to be a Jersey rock fight between these two teams. Like I wonder, it was like first to 8 or first to 7 wins here, but just to see the contrasting styles, and it's always kind of fun also to watch a pitching duel. Like I had a ball last year, the Rutgers Maryland game. I didn't go to it, but just watching it. It's just like I said that meme from I think it was I forget the show, but it's just like, no, I'll be 100 with you. I love this shit. That's how it felt. Everyone's like, this is like the meme with like the sad guy in the bus and the happy guy in the bus. It's just like Ohio State, Rutgers Maryland game, and I was just like, I'm definitely on the side, like looking at the sunny landscape. It's just kind of fun. Obviously love the 18, 17 games and shootouts, but sometimes good defensive brawl. So it's kind of also gives you something. But yeah, I thought you had to, besides Princeton, Cornell, the Penn State Maryland game, I think is the biggest one on the schedule, just because I think it's like, what's it, like 49-2, 47-2? Like Maryland has an insane
Penn State won. Yeah, Penn State won 2019,
2022, right?
And then they won 2024.
The Big
Ten tournament game, which they won that game by it's one of the worst games Maryland's. I think it's the worst game Maryland's ever played until then. Penn State won that game by 12 goals. It was and then Penn State turned around and lost to Michigan by 12 goals the next day in the Big Ten championship. But yeah, Penn State whooped them in that one. Again, if you look at the history of this rivalry in Happy Valley, the last time they played in Happy Valley in 2024, Penn State should have won that game. They had a 3 or 4 goal lead. They jumped up on Maryland big. Total classic Maryland theft. They scored 4 goals in 4 minutes at the start of the fourth quarter, and just Penn State was completely shell-shocked and never really recovered. I go back to the 2018 game they played, Sunday night game. That was the Penn State team without Grant Ament because he was hurt, and that was, of course, the year Penn State seemingly lost just a cavalcade of kind of 1-goal games. But I remember that one was a great atmosphere at Panzer, as it always is on a Sunday night. Close game throughout, but I feel like Penn State had the lead there. Penn State had a 10-9 lead to start the fourth quarter, and then Maryland outscored them. Maryland scored 4 of the next 5, and they wound up winning by 1. I go back even to 2016, I want to say. Wasn't a great Penn State team, but again, I think it was another Sunday night game at Panzer. And Maryland won that one 11-10. Brian Cole scored the overtime winning goal in that game. So Maryland's won. Maryland was down 4 goals in that game in the second quarter. Maryland's won at least 3 games Sunday nights at Panzer where they were down early and made a fourth quarter comeback. This isn't a Sunday night. It'll be Saturday afternoon, but should still be, I think, a really good atmosphere, 3 o'clock. But it's been sort of a story of Penn State having opportunities in these home games against Maryland, and Maryland somehow finds a way to kind of pull it out. And I don't know if that's how the game will play out, but it has that sort of vibe a bit with Maryland being on the ropes the way they have this season, losing Will Schaller now, and Penn State at home, which has a high-powered offense. If they could get Aquino back, they'd feel great. If they don't, it kind of evens things up, I guess, at least on the health front for both teams. Though Maryland obviously is missing Spanos as well. But
you're right.
I think you're 100%. Go ahead.
No, so you're absolutely right. It's the way Maryland was able to pull these out. 2018, that game you just mentioned, 13-12. just another nail biter. 6 goals by Connor Kelly, going to help propel Maryland. But yeah, you just need to find a way when it's at Penn State, to just like pull out the victory. Like it's just going to be difficult, with the injuries and everything. But yeah, just don't ever really want to count out John Tillman. But this year going to be a tall order, I think.
I think if they win this game, okay, I'll go. I'll do it. If they win this game, I think they win the Big Ten. I think if they can win this game, they go to Penn State after losing Schaller last week. Spano's probably out too. I think if they get this win, that would be. They finally feel like they're on the front foot for the first time all season. They've been playing on their back foot for a month now. It's just they've been taking punch and just trying to get to the bell and hang on. I think they'll finally feel like, all right, we got some juice now. They can go in and beat Penn State. They'll be back over 500. They'll be 1-0 in Big Ten play. They'll have one coming off another pretty catastrophic injury. This time, definitely catastrophic shot after the year. Their next 2 games, I think, are Michigan and Rutgers. Challenging games for sure. Obviously, Michigan's won however many in a row, and Rutgers beat them last year. But I think those are 2 teams who's kind of more probably the most offensively challenged teams in the Big Ten. Maybe Rutgers and Michigan. And I think that Rutgers will be at home. They're advantageous matchups. Rutgers struggles at the faceoff dot. Maryland's very strong there. Michigan certainly is the most offensively challenged team in the Big Ten. I think they could potentially get on a run. I think they could potentially be if they can win this one. I think they could be 3-0 in Big Ten play with Ohio State at home and Hopkins at Homewood to finish out the year, and they'll be on track. That means they would still have more to do. They got a lot of work to do, but I think if they can win this week, I think they can win the next 2 and then just split Ohio State and Hopkins, and you're 4-1. That probably gets you first place. You still might need more work to do in the Big Ten tournament, but you take it. If they lose this one with the Schaller injury, you're back to 3-4. I think it's probably AQ or bust. Now again, like they could still win out. Like they could win their next 4 and then win a Big Ten semifinal and that could probably still do it. I'm not saying it's mathematically done. I just think morale-wise, having to try and build yourself back again, I think that'd be really tough. I think this week is pivotal. I think if they can win this week, they can start to turn it around. I know we'll talk later about like the full impact of the Schaller injury. It's pretty. I think he was the best defender in the country. Like, those guys don't grow on trees. But I do think if they can win this one, I think this would be huge. I think it'd be absolutely huge. There was a lot of, for the first time, optimism coming out of the locker room after the Virginia game. Rupel kind of talking about how much it means for them to beat Virginia, how badly they want to beat them. Tillman, I think, looked really kind of emotional after the game. Seemed like he kind of spoke about it, how he really wanted them to get that win with kind of everything they've been dealing with. Kind of you mentioned like the galvanizing effect potentially of losing Schaller, but still getting it done in overtime. I think that was a big, big win. It could be if they win this week. Everything you did last week kind of goes out the window if you lose this week. You're just back behind the 8 ball again. But if you could string another one together, 3 wins in a row, be on the front foot, I think it's out there for them in Big Ten play. Even with the injuries they've had, I still think if that offense can start to put together, just play a little cleaner, shoot the ball a little better, the pieces are still there. You got the face-off play. If Rupel could have another big game, I mean, look, it's a challenge. It's clearly an imperfect team. It was an imperfect team when they were healthy, and now they've lost they're down their 2 best players. So as you said, this is probably the tallest task Tillman's ever had. But I think it's out there for them if they win this week. Win this week, get back over 500. I think they could go on a bit of a roll. If they lose, that might be all she wrote as far as they're basically playing for DEQ.
Yeah, it's probably because even though there's more games to play, probably the most important game. Like, because if you do get that, then you're 4-3. You can go 2-2 the rest of the way, and you'll be fine. In terms of because then you'll be 6-5. My fear is below 500. I think
I think for me to feel confident, they have to get to 8.
Oh
They
yeah,
need,
like
they need to get to 8 wins.
I think if they lose this game, like I would be worried about not finishing over
Well,
500.
to me, at that point, it doesn't matter because they're going to have it's the AQ anyway. If they're 3
Yeah,
it's the AQ anyway. Like at that point, to me, it's they lose this one, they could lose the next 4. They have to win the AQ.
yeah.
Like
So
that's the position they're in. So I'm not worried about 500 as much. Like to me, it's win this week. You have to beat Michigan. Bottom line, I don't care how many wins Michigan's got over you. Michigan is the bottom rung team in the league this year. You have to beat them. You just got to do it. You got to take care of business against Michigan. Then you have Rutgers at home. A game when Rutgers got them last year finally, but at home Maryland's had their number plenty of times. You figure you could take care of that one. That's 3-0. If you can give me 3-0, 6-4 before Ohio State and Hopkins, all right. We're be 6-3. You be 6-3 before Ohio State and Hopkins. If you can win this game, that's the goal. Win this one. The sort of lighter end with Michigan and Rutgers get you a 3-0 in Big Ten play. Then you maybe they've been playing for weeks now like they have no wiggle room, like no air, because every loss just feels like it's compounding with the way they got behind the 8 ball. If you're 6-3 before the Ohio State game, you could feel like, and look, you have Ohio State at home. That's the game you want to win. But even if you lose that one at 6-4, you can still feel like, all right, maybe let's get back at Hopkins next week and then see what we can do in the Big Ten tournament. Or if you beat Ohio State and you're 4-0 in Big Ten play going to Homewood, you're all right. You kind of feel back on track a little bit. It's still tough. They put themselves a big hole, but this is the one they have to take. They got to get this one. I'm not saying I feel great about it. I don't, but this is the one they got to have.
I guess I was so harping on the 500 thing because I think Maryland's never had minus 500.
That's
and
true.
they also have the longest NCAA tournament appearance streak. So that was my main thing. Is just like losing this one to get to 500, and then they're like absolutely. I know what you're saying. Like is AQ or bust kind of really. Maybe if they win this game, maybe it's not AQ or bust, but like the tournament's got to be the more short way to get to the actual dance. But yeah, it's just like a kind of jokes around like a crypto Terp fan. But yeah, just be kind of a year of streaks ending as we've kind of been talking about throughout the year. That'd be kind of one of the bigger ones out there.
We'll see if they can. And again, also I didn't mention in there, but if you can win and get in a win streak and get Spanos back, then you really feel that's juice. That's momentum you can have. If you win 3 or 4 in a row and you get Spanos back, they probably feel awesome. Like, okay, let's go get this thing. Spanos will probably be back at some point, but if he's back and you're like 5 and 6, and it's like we just got to win the Big Ten tournament, it's a little different. So you want to be in the best position you can be when he comes back. Unfortunately, with Schaller, it's kind of done. It's a shame. Feel for the kid. A lot. Safe the game you're going to Cornell Princeton. I'm intrigued. Princeton's interesting. We talked a lot about Princeton and could Princeton kind of mature a little bit, find different ways to play and different ways to win. And I think we are seeing that, but I wonder if within that, maybe a little bit, if there's a potential, I don't want to say a weak spot, but like a way to get at them. Princeton this year is 65th in the country in pace on offense. Princeton is playing at a very, very deliberate pace on offense this year. I think some of this is probably how teams are defending them a little bit. With like defenses can dictate pace too. And I think, if defenses a little bit are just kind of slouching in a little bit, playing some zone, different ways to kind of, you don't want that offense to have the ball a bunch. The more that offense has the ball, the more problems that you are going to have. So I do want to, that's part of it. They are playing at a very deliberate pace. Princeton's kind of gradually gone slower a bit just on the totality. I know that we've kind of talked about wanting them to be able to kind of, when they do get in those kind of track meet games, of finding ways to slow it down. But as a whole, they have gotten slower over the years. But there's another interesting stat here, is that Princeton is averaging 37 shots per game. That ranks 47th in the country. Now, their shooting as a team adjusted, their adjusted shooting percentage is 37%, which is fourth best. Even in raw shooting percentage, they're shooting 13%. Princeton puts a 68% of their shots on cage, which ranks sixth in the country. So they are when it comes to shooting efficiency, this is a hyper efficient shooting team. And obviously, just look, in general, on the offensive side of the ball, this team is pretty spectacular, as we've talked about many times. But 37 shots a game, Safe, is 47th in the country. That's kind of down there a little bit. And if you compare it to last year, in 2025, they ranked in shots per game sixth. They had 45 shots per game. They're taking 8 fewer shots per game so far this year than they did in 2025. And if I even pull it back to 2024, they took 46 shots a game, fifth in the country. 2023, just to, kind of continually highlight it here, they took 47 shots a game again, second in the country. And 2022, obviously the year that they made the Final Four, maybe the best team Madeline has had, they took 47 shots, eighth. So they were at 47 shots for like 3 years in a row. Then they were at 45. Now they're at 37 shots a game. Again, this is a team that is they shoot the ball very well. They put a bunch of their shots on goal. So they are compensating for it significantly by how efficient they are, and their offense on the whole is very efficient. And it's not as if this team is turning the ball over. They almost the one thing Princeton for years has done great offensively, they just do not turn the ball over. Their turnover rate is just microscopic basically every year. Their offense is still very good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to, but it's interesting that one, their face-off play is probably the best it's been in the past. In Meekin's career, they're winning 58.3% adjusted face-off percentage. That's 12th in the country. It's the best they've had in the past decade. So they're winning more face-offs than they really ever have. They're not turning the ball over, and yet, nonetheless, they are taking a lot fewer shots than they did in the past 4 seasons. I say all this to say, last week against Yale, their offense was pretty darn good, but 33.3%, a little quieter in the second half. 3 goals on 18 possessions in the second half. Yale really kind of kept them quiet. 11 shots in the first quarter. After that, 22 shots the rest of the game. And again, this also was a kind of a more their shot on goal rate was still fantastic. Don't get me wrong. They had, for the game, Princeton had 33 shots and put 23 of them on goal. They put 70% of their shots on goal. Yale put 50. So Yale took 11 more shots, but Princeton had more shots on goal. Again, they were finding ways after, but it's a point that Yale had 2 more possessions. Princeton failed 4 clears. Princeton had a lot fewer shots, and now they're playing Cornell, who has one of the best face-off men in the country in Jack Cascada, who's had a goalie, Matt Patulli's played some really good games this year. And Cornell's a team who's found ways to kind of dictate the flow of the game against Princeton. Last year, they did it by just running and gunning with them and saying, you can't keep up with us. And Princeton tried to keep up, and they couldn't. I'm intrigued. Is this new strategy from Princeton, this more slower, more deliberate style, is that the avenue to beat Cornell? Maybe as we've been thinking. Or could they maybe get got with a game where maybe they just don't put enough rubber on the cage? I think it's interesting. It's really fascinating when you look under the hood what their offense is kind of looking like. And I'm intrigued. We saw Cornell against Richmond play a really kind of defensive, kind of deliberate game. I think Cornell's got some good pieces defensively. I don't know. I'm intrigued I think we've all we've advocated for Princeton to kind of do this, but it is fascinating when you look at just how 37 shots is basically they're taking 2 fewer shots a quarter than they were for basically the entirety of the last 4 seasons. That does add up.
The thing that sticks out the most when I'm looking at the lax reference, the plus or minuses for possessions, it is what you're kind of said. If they just get the ball and have enough possessions, they're gonna put it on you, especially with just how efficient they are. But the closest games, the Penn State game, they're -3. I guess up to the wall. -6.
-6.
-8 against Maryland. That was kind of close at the end. Maryland could maybe been able to present overtime. Essentially, even with Cuse, -3 with Syracuse. Both of those games were, not so much the Syracuse game after the
UNC.
The UNC game, though, was very definitely kind of nip and tuck throughout into the fourth. Rutgers game, obviously +14, so they kind of put it on them. But yet the Yale game, -4 possessions, and Yale was able to use that, and also kind of had a bit of a off day for Princeton's offense. But yeah, if they don't have the possessions, those are usually the most or least efficient offensive games. And if Cornell is able to take a little bit of the edge and maybe go 55-45 in face-off and kind of limit their own turnovers and kind of maybe increase Princeton's a little bit. Could maybe see Princeton out. But that's the flip side is I think that deliberate style, that gritty thing that we kind of were saying for a little while, we haven't seen since 2022. Yeah. That's what maybe they don't have the flash, just the Ferrari, but maybe they're a F-150, just tough, much more tough. That's one thing I've seen that reminds me of the 2022 team is just the physicality of Princeton is definitely reminiscent of that 2022 team and much more controlled. I think they were trying to match that in 2023 and 2024, but some of those games we kind of always pointed out, they kind of get a little bit too hot to begin, and it kind of doesn't happen for them. But it's it's a controlled fury, much more disciplined and poised, and that's the flip side of if they do get dragged into the mud. I think not that they like it, but I think they can fight for that knife in the mud.
And they have a great goalie, obviously, in Craddock, who they will be comfortable leaning on, for sure. It's interesting. I think it's an interesting wrinkle. For as much as we've kind of talked about this, so we like what Princeton's playing, it is kind of fascinating. And there's also, I think there's other. I want to see how it develops. I think of that Maryland game where they basically pulled Kabiri out and played a bunch of 5-on-5 and played a lot slower because that's the way a lot of teams play Maryland. They did that again a bit against Cuse. Will they feel the need to do that as much against teams with defenses maybe not as strong? I don't know. The Rutgers game, they obviously felt like they get whatever they want and they got the ball all the time and they dump trucked them. But Cornell is a team I think maybe is along the lines of Cuse and Maryland who can play a tough physical style, play strong defense, and who maybe I don't know if Cornell has a long pole like Schaller or Figueres where you feel let's just they're basically their mindset was let's just avoid that entirely. We can be if your advantage on us is putting your number one pole on Kabiri, we'll just let everybody else go get it anyway because we don't think you can defend everybody else. And the truth is, with the amount of options they have, you really can't defend everybody else they have. So, but that inherently leads to playing slower. When you're gonna, when you're gonna play, there's more space when it's 5-on-5, but they're also, you are intentionally trying to kind of by moving him out, letting things develop. It's going to take, some more time off the clock. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'm maybe the Yale game was just an off day. Again, they failed 4 clears. Yale didn't fail any. Yale, it was a low turnover game, so Yale certainly did what they needed to do to kind of potentially get the win in that one. But I'm intrigued. Is it maybe just an off day for Princeton, or was there maybe something in there that can be replicated to try and slow down this offense?
That and also probably Yale, like kind of what we're talking about, like teams like not the last chance, but like really good chance to like turn it around and like you know still like a significant win like at home. Like I think they just got up for them also. Like
the desperation is definitely going to be for Princeton. Everyone they play is probably going to need it more than they do.
Everyone's going to be trying to take their head off, like the rest of the way. Like Cornell, it's not as desperate, but any team that's in the Ivy, like trying to fight for that Ivy League, like berth, like and Princeton's going to come, like they're going to have like challenges. But that just comes, heavy lies the crown, that type of thing. Maybe they're not officially number one, but like they're playing like number one. They got significant number one votes, so. And every team that's like kind of having a middling season, like that's what I'm saying about like UMass. Like, not that I think UMass is better than Richmond, but like UMass is a competent team, top 20-ish, like borderline top 20. They're gonna have Richmond at home, like they're gonna get up for that, like and that Richmond, not that Richmond's ducked any fades or anything like that. They've been able to rise to any challenge and answer every bell this year. But it's just now you got to do it the entire year. You know what I mean? Like
for sure.
That's kind of what we saw with Army. Army did great. Last couple of years, like stellar non-con schedule. So clean slate, and then just stumble against your conference, and it's just like because those teams like you're coming in like something to eat, like DMX would say, like you're top 10, like in the polls, like even higher than that at certain points last year and the year prior, and then just they would love to shatter your day, and we saw that a couple times last couple seasons. So that's what I'm saying. Like, not that Princeton, it's not already know that that's happening, but it's totally different than going out there and winning, especially like these tough away games.
I say anything else? Any other games you're kind of looking forward to, have an eye on? Interested in anything else about this weekend?
No, I mean, I think we hit the big ones that I really care about. Gonna be nice to be able to see some more games. For instance, only like 20 minutes away, so maybe grab lunch after the game, but go to drive home, watch the some other the games, and then for our power hour. But no, I think we hit all the ones that I'm really thinking of. But that Duke Denver game on Sunday would be a nice treat.
Georgetown Cuse too.
That too. I was going to say I only mentioned Duke Denver specifically because like I don't think there's a stream for that one up yet either. But I mean I know
if it's in Durham, it'll be on ACC Network.
Oh, I was trying to. Normally, like IL has like that. IL just has a link for it right next to it, and
it might not be. It might not be up yet, but I mean, if it's in Durham, that game should be on.
It has to be, right? Yeah.
At minimum, it'll be ACC Network Extra. Let me double check that it is in Durham and not somewhere.
No, you're right. I mean, IL has them at Durham, but it's just weird. Like you usually think.
Yeah, it's ACC Network Extra. The link isn't up yet, but Duke has it on their schedule.
I think that's good to have.
Georgetown Cuse, I think interesting just because I remember when we talked way back at the start of this Cuse road run. I think I said I picked 2 losses. All right, here's what I said: 2 losses or 1, and then they'd lose the Georgetown game on the kind of the way back, the jet lag, all that. I'm intrigued to see what Cuse looks like. Finally back in the Dome, the fans I'm sure will be up for it. It's a rivalry game.
Cuse this is like the rivalry for Cuse fans.
I mean, yeah, basketball certainly. Lacrosse, Virginia and.
Man, like just like the heated rivalry of just the institutions.
Yeah, for sure. And it felt like you got the full gamut with Cuse during that road run. Like you had some games where they looked like the best team in the country, or some parts of games where they looked like the best team in the country. You had some parts of games where you were like, what the hell is going on? Then you had some other games and they were like, listen, they played pretty well. And at the end of it, I don't know that you were left any more feeling any differently about the way. Well, I guess going into it, they were the number 1 team in the country and they just beat Maryland. So it was.
I will say the game I'm most impressed by. I mean, the Denver game was a gut check too, but the Penn game showed me something. Being able to respond like.
that's the tough thing. Is like the Penn game and the Denver game, I think as well, not getting tripped up are impressive. But there's also large aspects of that game where you're kind of like, what the hell is
What's going on? No, absolutely. The first half, when they were down 4 with like 8 minutes to go, I was like, "What's going on here?"
I think I think I'm coming to a realization here. I think I'm going to recuse myself from Q's conversation anymore. I think I'm just going to let it. I think I'm just going to let it play out.
Just let it play out.
Like I'm just like I don't really know what's. I don't know what if I have much left to say. Like I think we're just going to have to like. It's all going to get answered in the end. You know, is this team capable of being more consistent and of kind of finding that last gear to win a championship? We're going to find out.
Just let God sort it out. Yeah.
I feel like in the meantime, it's just going to continue. We're going to see everything. You know, like if you told me they won this weekend by like 6 goals, I'd be like, absolutely. If you told me they got down against Georgetown the way they did against Penn and they couldn't come back, I'd be like, sure, I could see that. I just think it's all going to be out there, man. And these QCers are crazy. They're they always sometimes seem to kind of find their way back to the same sort of game. Can Georgetown? You know, it seems when the longer the season goes on, the more Georgetown eventually winds up looking like Georgetown. Is this a moment where that can kind of happen? Their last 2 wins have been pretty comprehensive. Can Liam Connor, the last 2 games, granted there's a quality of competition sort of aspect to this, but Liam Connor's first game against Penn, he had 5 assists. You know, teeing up his brother. I don't think he took any shots in that game. Against Notre Dame, a goal and an assist. You know, was kept pretty quiet. Against Ohio State, no goals and 2 assists. Against Richmond, no goals and 1 assist. Again, there's a competitive aspect. Against Albany, had a goal and 5 assists, but against Loyola, huge day, 3 goals and 6 assists. Rory Connor has been on it for Georgetown like all season. Like even when they weren't, their offense wasn't really working as well as you thought. Rory Connor was just putting up gargantuan numbers. He's got 27 goals. Is Liam Connor finally getting going? But also, some of these other guys for Georgetown got going. You know, they got Rory Connor's got 33 points. Liam Connor's got 25 points. Jack Schubert's got 13. Jack Ransom 9. Jake Bickle 7. Kevin Miller 6. Joe Caesar 6. They have, but after their top 3 guys, they only have 2 other guys above a point per game, and they're not above it by much. They got to get some more depth of scoring. Some of these other guys have got to come through for Georgetown. Is this maybe a week where that can kind of happen? We'll see. All right, Safe. We'll finish up here strong. We did this last week. We had fun with it, talking about Virginia. Again, going to take a page out of the old PTI playbook. 5 good minutes. Safe. Will Schaller is out for Maryland. Torn ACL. Done for the season, pretty much. We kind of talked about this with Ohio State and Bobby Van Buren about how they could replace him. And Ohio State's done a pretty darn good job. Kyle Foster's kind of been able to take up the mantle as the kind of cover guy. They've left Cullen Brown to sort of to do his thing as the air traffic control guy. Maryland's in a tricky spot here. Peter Lake stepped up to cover McCabe Millen for the rest of that game. Against Virginia, I thought he did a really good job. There was definitely like one extended sequence where Millen just kept going at him. Lake held his ground. Lake's a very talented kid. He's got great feet, kind of strong, classic Maryland defender type, build and poise. And when you watch him, he looks like a Maryland long pole. He has all the kind of traits that they normally have. I think at some point in his career, he was going to be the number 1 pole at Maryland, probably next year. Well, now it's going to be this week. He is honestly what I worry about least. I think he can do it. I think he's capable. My question is, what do they do elsewhere? You've got Michael Alexander, an experienced guy, but Yale for a long time. Kind of been the number 3 pole, more of an off-ball guy. I don't think he's been bad in coverage, but now we always talk about you're making him bump up to another spot. Then it's the number 3 pole. Riley Reese, son of Kathy Reese, Maryland women's coach, son of Brian Reese, played Maryland. Guy's been in the program a long time. He's had multiple knee surgeries. Very well liked, popular kid, leader. Joan generally, though, is an off-ball guy. Kind of organizes defense. He plays man down for Maryland. He was the one who came in against Virginia. He did a good job, an admirable job stepping in. Didn't really notice him. Can you rely on? Is he the guy who's going to step in? Again, off-ball guy, I think really capable. Plays man down, knows his role. But with Schaller gone, someone's got to step up and play better, play man defense to more because Lake was already doing himself number 2. Someone's got to step up and do something. Do you maybe move AJ Larkin down to Longpole? He's probably their second most talented defender after now with Lake, but then you lose what Larkin brings at LSM, and this is not a Maryland team that is particularly deep at the long pole position this year, unlike last year where they were very deep. This is a tough one, Safe. I don't really know where they go. I think they're going to do, obviously, what they have to, and whatever they feel is the best course of option is what they're going to go with. But with Ohio State, it was kind of a straightforward proposition. If Kyle Foster can step up and cover the number 1 guys, we've got Cullen Brown as our air track control guy. We've got a lot of depth. We'll keep him rolling. I think it's a tougher question for Maryland. Doesn't mean it can't be answered, but where do you think they should go? Where will they go in trying to replace Will Schaller?
I mean, I like how you broke down. Like, I pretty much think that's probably what Tony's thinking. I always feel like with these kind of big injuries, shout out to Big Mac. Obviously, don't want to forget about him. But like, trying to think of like years were really significant injury for Maryland.
That's the only other
defensive end.
2023, Mac and then Ajax got hurt at the end of the year and missed the last like 3 weeks of the season, something like that.
Bryce Young, shout out to South Jersey zone. Bryce Young, thinking about him too. He was out like for a good amount of period, but like Maryland's been pretty blessed with especially during the Tillman era of like not having major like injuries to significant players repeatedly. Again, shout out to Big Mac and Bryce Young. Not that they're not significant injuries, but what we always kind of feel with, especially with lacrosse, is like maybe not the guy who takes over for the injured player, but everybody that has to step up a level. And suddenly, like, the the defender that maybe was just there, like, to spell one of the starters now having to play potentially starter minutes. And maybe the fall off from Schaller and whoever takes him is significant, but how much is the fall off of everybody else that has to jump off?
That's what I worry about more. That's the worry. I think Lake can be 90% of Will Schaller. I think he can do it. But
now
everybody else,
the person making Lake is
can Michael Alexander be 90% of Peter Lake? I don't know.
Then it kind of compounds because then you're like, we only get 85. And then, like, the person who like replaces the guy who replaces Lake, like maybe he's at 75. It's just like it all messes up, and then it's like suddenly the compensation, and then you have the over sliding or just the communication, just people playing more minutes that like of like a high level that just not that they can't, but like, do you have the durability, like, to be able to like it is challenging to fill in somebody else's shoes. And that's the thing that I feel like I would be concerned if I was a Maryland guy, not that who's going to be able to take. Tillman's got guys that could maybe give you 85-90% of Schaller, but if the guys who have to step into Schaller's position, who's going to be filling up those holes, and will those like have the same kind of compensation or coverage that whoever's moving up, or who's left there. So that's my biggest thing, and it's just like it's just the downstream effects. It's kind of a domino. Like when one thing falls, you're like kind of you're a bed sheet that's like not not long enough. No matter how you tug it and stuff like that, it's not going to cover you everywhere. And kind of that's what kind of happens when you lose your starters and for a significant amount of time. And with the people that step up, and if they step up, can they step up and at that pace and like level for an extended period of time?
I think you mentioned something interesting about the communication, and I wonder if I don't know. Maryland's problem this year has been their long poles defending. I think those guys have done a pretty good job. Schaller, obviously, Lake's done really well. I think Alexander's done a solid job as well. Their short sticks were of obvious weakness against Virginia. Virginia just inverted them and dodged them to time and time again in that second half. For the first weeks, they're pretty good, though. A lot of the issues to me with Maryland has been actually communication. Mark Dixon mentioned this on the broadcast. They lost Colin Burleigh last year, who was their kind of captain, off-ball guy, got everybody organized. He was the air traffic control guy, and he did an amazing job of that. And that's a really your off-ball free safety type defender is maybe not quite as important as the number one cover guy, but it's close. You need one of those guys. They haven't had that, and a lot of the issues Maryland teams has just been communication. The support guy not sliding when he needs to, guys not sliding in the middle of the field, not taking the body and playing physical when they should. I wonder if you put Reese in there who is an off-ball guy, who is a natural, that's his role. He plays man down. He's experienced. He gets everybody in alignment. I wonder if you put him in there, can you actually make up for that being the issue? Can you maybe solve another problem, even though this is – I guess the question is, can you solve the off-ball problem they had if you put Reese in there? Can he maybe solve that other problem kind of inadvertently or kind of by happenstance? However, can you avoid the Schaller now problems? Do you just wind up to solving one problem, but then there's another that's created?
Yeah, or Peter to pay Paul.
Maybe can everybody play 5 to 10% better, and can you make up for it? I think that's probably I think that's where they'll go. You could put Larkin down at defense, but I just think you wonder, Larkin's great and he's a havoc creator in the middle of the field. He pushes transition. And then also, same compounding things. All right, you put Larkin down at defense. Who then is your other long pole step? Trevor Owens is great. He could probably step in as the number one pole. Then who's the number two pole? When your problem already, I think, is that the compounding thing, I don't want to compound it even further by moving somebody out of a spot. I feel like the best thing is you just put Reese in there and you be like, be you. You're an organizer. You play off ball. That's your job. Do your job. You go to Michael Alexander and be like, listen, you've been the number 3 guy. You got to be the number 2 guy. We need you to be a little bit better. And Lake, we need you to be, everybody's got to be a little bit better. Next man up. I think trying to solve problems elsewhere probably will just create other problems, which is not what you need. I think you just got to see if everybody can play a little bit better. And maybe not. That's the likely answer is no, they can't. But maybe. Things can happen. Guys get hurt and teams can push through it. We'll see if Maryland's able to do that. All right, Safe. It's going to be a great weekend of games. Can't wait for the Power Hour, probably 7-ish, 6:30, 7-ish on Saturday night after a big day of games. Then we'll have 2 more on Sunday. These are the weekends we look forward to. Safe will be, again, the World Tour continues in 1952. So should be good. Take care out there, friends. Stay hydrated. Enjoy the games this weekend. Maybe get out to a game. And we will see you. Obviously, this pod will go up on all the podcast platforms. If you listen to it there, take care as always. If you listen to it on YouTube, make sure you smash the like button when this video goes up on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/lacrossecommission. Turn notifications on for when we go live. We are live every Saturday, breaking down all the games. All right. That takes care of it from us here at the Cross Commission. Best of luck, friends. Have a great weekend. Stay hydrated. Make the most of present.